Welcome back to the Pylon Cam. My name is Mike. Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel. Got some more NFL content for you today. Got another mock draft post-Combine. Combine is over. Day 4 concluded today with running backs and interior offensive linemen. And we got a bunch of new information about prospects at each position. Your new favorite prospect, all the prospects. Anyways, we now know that Kayshon Boutte is the most unathletic wide receiver in NFL history. Just kidding. I don't think he's actually the most unathletic, but he's pretty close. He still thinks he's the best receiver in the draft. Doesn't think anybody could guard him. I don't know if I disagree, but I don't think he's that athletic anymore. But anyways, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into this mock draft at pick 1 with the Chicago Bears. In this video, we're doing no trades. We did a trade mock draft last week. They get too hectic, too hard to predict. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this at pick 1. With the first pick, we're going to go with Will Anderson. I think that Jalen Carter normally would be the number 1 overall pick, but because of, if you don't know, there was Jalen Carter basically right before he was set to speak at the Combine. There was a warrant out for his arrest for the events that happened that ended up in the tragic loss of a teammate and an athletic trader from Georgia a few months ago. And I don't know where it currently stands, but I think Jalen Carter made bail and is free. But with all of that now being in the picture, I don't know if he's a lock to go number 1. I mean, it was between him and Will Anderson for the number 1 overall pick, if as a non-quarterback. But with all of that baggage, I think a lot of teams are going to maybe slide him down as their board and maybe not. But I think that Will Anderson tested really well. I think he looked really well. He interviewed really well. He was one of my favorite interviews. We're going to talk about my favorite interview in a few picks, but we're going to go with him at number 1. I think he's just a cornerstone type player, and with the added weight to Jalen Carter, I think he's going to fall down the board. But at pick 2, we got the Houston Texans, and I'm going with my QB1, and that's C.J. Stroud. Stroud didn't do the 40 or any of the athletic testing, but watching him throw and listening to how he interviewed and the confidence he has, I think that a wild card team to trade up for Stroud if he falls is the Jets. And if they can't land Aaron Rodgers, I think C.J. Stroud would be a phenomenal fit for the Jets offense. They have a great run game, great offensive line, and great weapons, one being Garrett Wilson, who he absolutely dominated college with. But I have the Texans taking him here at pick 2. I think I've been saying this for months. I think Stroud is the safest prospect. There's no height concerns. There's no weight concerns. The only concern with Stroud is how does he handle pressure? And I think that as you transition to the NFL, that's one of the biggest things for quarterbacks to get accustomed to is handling pressure. Can you survive? Can you appropriately manipulate a pocket? I think a lot of people get confused with pocket presence and scrambling. This was my knock on Jalen Hurts before this year, and he vastly improved it, which I think is a reason that should have much weight to his improvement as a passer. Is he would just bail on the pocket way too early. It wasn't leaving the pocket when you have protection is not pocket presence. That's just leaving the pocket early to scramble. And you saw this year from Hurts when he stood in there, even when he was going to get hit, and just take those few steps to slide up or slide to the right before he ran and then find A.J. Brown down the field. You saw how much he improved as a passer. And I think Stroud, with his mechanics, with his release, with his accuracy, I think he could get there. I don't think it'll take as long as Hurts. I think he's a much better prospect than Hurts. I mean, Hurts only took to year 3. I'm not trying to knock Hurts. But, yeah, I got Stroud as QB1. Pick 3, with the Cardinals, we're going with Jalen Carter. I mentioned that he might fall, but I don't know if he's going to fall that far. He might still end up being the number 1 overall pick if the Bears end up staying at pick 1, but I think he's too good to pass up at pick 3, especially if they're just misdemeanor charges. And it's also important to note, this is a college kid. So, if you've been in college, if you're in college, if are going to college, we were all idiots at one point. Not all of us were blessed to just skip over that being an idiot phase. Jalen Carter made a mistake. Unfortunately, it was a tragedy, but, I mean, it's not like Henry Ruggs type tragedy. He didn't kill anybody. He just was driving I mean, again, like I'm not trying to excuse him and say like what he did was smart or not dumb, but like he's a kid and kids make mistakes. So I thank God that nobody was hurt, or he wasn't hurt, because I can't say nobody was hurt because people were hurt in this incident. But just a tragic story, and I just think that before we judge Jalen Carter, we should make sure that we have all the facts and just see what the full picture is. But with all of that being said, I have Carter here at pick 3. I'm not going to say much more about it. And if you watched last week's video, I said that after the Combine and Pro Days, Anthony Richardson was going to move up to QB2. And I still believe he's going to be QB2. The only thing I didn't foresee happening was Bryce Young falling down to QB3. I don't necessarily have him as QB3, but I think that Anthony Richardson now being the most athletic quarterback of all time in Combine testing, that's like way too rich to pass up, even if he's a project, than taking Bryce Young, who is is the most talented quarterback prospect, but has size concerns. He weighed in at 205. There's no shot he plays at 205. He probably took a dump after he weighed in and went back down to 190. He weighed in at 204, excuse me. But there's no chance. Like, there's no chance he plays at 205, and I think he's going to, even if he keeps some of the weight he puts on, he's going to still weigh in at 190, which is crazy small. And he was only 5'10 and a half, which is what I predicted, on the shorter side of 5'10 and a half, which is what he was. But with the Colts, who are just in full rebuild and have the time to let Richardson make mistakes before they round out their roster and kind of start from square one with Shane Steichen, who did just work wonders with Jalen Hurts, who fits the same mold as Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson with monstrous upside. I think it's a great fit for the Colts. I think if you watch them throw, Anthony Richardson missed an out route that everybody's flaming on Twitter. I thought Will Levis looked horrible, to be honest. So if we're gonna bank on, they're both subpar throwers, but we're going to say one has great traits in Will Levis, well, you can't look at Anthony Richardson and say his traits are not better. So if you're taking the traits-based prospect, why would you not take Anthony Richardson over Will Levis? Like, that doesn't make sense. So I have the Colts going with Richardson at pick 4. I think Richardson is definitely a top 5 pick. Definitely going to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks off the board. There's no shot he falls out of the top 4 quarterbacks taken. After that combine testing, there's no way. And he didn't look bad throwing down the field. Granted, not too much stock in throwing on combine days or pro days because it's all scripted and you're in shorts and t-shirts, no pressure. But I think, like I said, like Anthony Richardson should throw at the combine because his stock could only go up, and his stock only did go up, but way more than anybody thought. Pick 5 is the Seahawks, and I have them going with Bryce Young. I think they might let Geno walk. I think Anthony Richardson's in play for pick 5. Pete Carroll looked like he was about to fall over when he was watching Anthony Richardson test. But I think Bryce Young hurt his stock a little bit by not throwing, because there was no questions about Stroud throwing, and there was no questions about Stroud's height, weight, etc. But he still threw. So I think that the size concern is still, I think it's still a concern for Young, because we all know he put on a tremendous amount of weight for this measurement, and he's not going to weigh in again, and he's only going to go down from here. In my opinion, it's not like Zay Flowers, who put on 13 pounds of muscle and took 2 pictures. Like, we just know Bryce Young put on 10 pounds of muscle or weight reportedly. Like, we don't know if it's going to stay. But for the Seahawks, who he could come in and play right away, and our competitive roster as is, I think it'd be a fantastic fit for the Seahawks, especially if reports are true and they're planning on moving off of Geno. And avoiding the tag, and if that's the case, they're in play to move up. Probably pick 3, pick 1 for a quarterback. But pick 6 is the Lions. And with this pick, I think this is probably one of the most criminal... Well, no, okay. After he tested, and from the school he's coming from, it's hard to gauge where he should be drafted because of his production. But after his testing, and if you factor in the school that he's coming from, I do not think that this is a far-fetched take. And that is, I have the Detroit Lions taking Nolan Smith from Georgia. Nolan Smith Probably the most athletic edge rusher in the class. He had the highest 40 time, highest broad jump, third highest broad jump, and I believe the highest vertical of the class. I mean, he ran a 4.3, absolutely showed out. He's on a little bit of a little bit of the smaller side, but you pair him up with Aiden Hutchinson, and maybe you get a D lineman later in this draft, bro. I'm telling, Nolan Smith would eat. And the thing with Nolan Smith that really impressed me, it actually had nothing to do with his measurements or testing. This man, like, he has a psychopath mentality of, like, he would get mad at his teammates for transferring. Like, he would get mad if they held out for bowl games. Like, he just has this mentality of you start what you finish. That's why he did all the combine testing. He didn't want to leave any stone unturned. He didn't want to leave there any question mark. Yeah, he's come back from the pec injury, but, like, dude, this kid broke his nose in practice and just put, like, tape over it and went back out there. Like, I remember everybody freaking out when J.J. Watt did that. Nolan Smith did it. I mean, this kid probably tried to play after he tore his pec, and his team had to be like, yo, like, relax. We're going to protect you from yourself here. But the talent is there, and it is on tape. It's very much so on tape. The PFF guys were very high on Nolan Smith, but well before this. And now I'm kind of starting to see why after the interview process of it, because, like, he is just mentally he's there. And I think that's such an important factor for a high draft pick, is you have to know that you're at least going to get someone who comes to work every single day. They could be the most talented player in the draft, but if they just aren't mentally there, like, look at John Morant and what he's doing right now with guns and stuff. Like, how dumb are you? Like, you're one of the most talented players in the NBA. Like, just go to work. Don't mess it up. And I think with Nolan Smith, you have the talent, but you more importantly have that mindset of, like, this kid is going to show up. He's a locker room guy, no question about it. He's going to push everybody to get better. I think he actually would be an incredible fit for the Dan Campbell locker room, and for what they're doing in Detroit, he'd be a phenomenal fit. And he's just someone I really like coming out of this draft. I was slowly moving him closer to the middle of the first round. I think I was a little bit ahead of people on that. And now I'm nobody will have him top 7. I guarantee you this week. The only person I can think of that might is the Goat House, but I don't think they will. In my opinion, he's a top 8 pick, no doubt. Raiders at pick 7. I'm gonna go with Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones tested out as one of the most athletic tackles of this draft, and he already was my tackle 1. I think he ran he definitely ran the fastest 40. He had a great broad jump. He had a pretty decent broad jump, good vertical. Just an athlete. Just very similar to Andrew Thomas, just not as athletic in my opinion. Like, Andrew Thomas was a freak coming out, and Andrew Thomas had that out of the box ready to play set. He struggled early on with New York, but once he got going, dude, there was no stopping him. And now he's one of the best tackles in the league. I don't know if Broderick Jones will do that well, but he's got that similarity to him. Anyways, pick 8 is the Falcons, and the Falcons owner, or their GM, I forget who it was like gushing about nickel corner, and he was talking about how important nickel corner is and how it's not just a sub-packaged role or anything like that. Like, it's now just your base set defense. Your base defense has a nickel corner in it, and having an elite nickel corner is so important for the NFL today, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I think taking a nickel corner in the top 10 is kind of crazy if it's, I don't know. I really don't know about this one, but I'm going to go with Brian Branch just based off that alone. I think Brian Branch is that good, and I think he tested out pretty well. He didn't test out crazy, but he offers that safety versatility, but he is a very good nickel corner, and if the Falcons are, well, to be honest with you, I don't really even think the Falcons have this pick. I think they traded for Lamar Jackson, but that's just me. Panthers at pick 9. Will Levis is on the board, but I think they're just going to pass on Will Levis entirely. Go all in for Derek Carr. Especially, like, if you can't get Richardson, go in for Derek Carr. If you can get Richardson, still go all in for Derek Carr. I think Levis you could pass on at pick 9. And with this pick, we're going to take Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson didn't do any of the he didn't do anything but the bench. But he did measure in his wingspan. his measurements are all above 90th percentile, except I think for his wingspan and height, I believe are 96th and 92nd percentile. I forget what his hand size was. I think that was the one that was like 60 some percent, but it doesn't matter. You're gonna get a freak of nature. Definitely gonna help that Carolina defense, which is good, and I think it's only gonna be really, like I said last week. J.C. Horn is gonna be one of the breakout players of the year. Under the new defensive coordinator that you brought in from the Broncos. I think he already is capable of putting up Patrick Surtain numbers. Now you give him Patrick Surtain's coach, he's going to be a breakout candidate in 2023. No doubt. Tyree Wilson's going to help that defensive front, make everybody's life easier. I think it's a really, really good pick. Just pass on Levis. And if you're bad next year, go all in for Caleb Williams or Drake May. It's just a better quarterback class next year anyways. And they say that every year, but I really think it is. I think Levis is... I think he's overhyped. I've never really been all in on Levis. I did mock him first overall a month or so ago, because I thought that there's a good chance a team wants to bank on the traits, and that there is the red flag of Stroud being bad under pressure and young size, so Levis could just be the tools guy that someone wants to go all in on. But now that Anthony Richardson's tools blows Levis out of the water, there's no point. So Eagles at pick 10, I'm going to go with Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez tested out insane, and he already was my DB1. CB1, I think he is an insane talent. He's just a playmaker who also is a lockdown corner, which is very, very rare. Devin Witherspoon is a playmaker, but I don't think he's as much of a lockdown corner as Gonzalez is. Gonzalez just has the size, has the athleticism, has the speed, has the agility to just lock up people, and he has that special ability to make plays where he needs to. Pick 11, we're going to go with Peter Skoronski. I think that this is just a Titans pick all over it. He can play tackle, he can play guard, he can play anywhere. And he measured out pretty well today. Yesterday, because you're going to see this on Monday. But Skoronski I think he's the top 3 safest player in the draft, in my opinion. But yeah, Texans at pick 12. With this pick, we're going to address the line, specifically the D-line, and we are going to take Myles Murphy. Myles Murphy didn't test, which is why he's kind of fallen down the board a little bit, in my opinion. I still think once he tests out his pro day, he's going to shoot back up, but because of what we just saw with Nolan Smith and Tyree Wilson's measurements, Tyree Wilson's wingspan is bigger than Shaq. That's insane. It's bigger than Shaq is tall. I saw that on Instagram. But Myles Murphy, I think he tweaked his hamstring the night before the Edge class went. So I believe he just measured. Didn't participate in any of the drills. But an absolute steal here at pick 12 to get that edge help you desperately need. Yeah. Pick 13 is the Jets, and we're going to go with Paris Johnson. Get that tackle. Move Elijah Vera Tucker back inside. And just let Mekhi Becton try to play. He's probably going to last for about 30 minutes, but that's all right. You got Paris Johnson now, so you don't even need him. Pick 14 is the Patriots, and I've been saying this all along, dude, and I have been saying it all along. You go back to the videos and listen. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the best receiver in this class. He didn't run the 40. His agility drills, the times he put up, rivaled Odell Beckham. Some of them were better than Odell Beckham. His agility, you could worry that he's slow. He's not going to be a burner, but he's going to separate. He's going to get open. He's an elite level of agility. It's just, and the production's there. The production is there in 2021. He was hurt in 2022, but we just watched him dominate the gauntlet drill, the agility drills. He just above and beyond looked like the best receiver there, and it wasn't even close. And I'm going to put out my position rankings this year. He has been my wide receiver 1 the entire time, and spoiler alert, he still is my wide receiver 1. Pick 15 is the Packers. And with this pick, we're going with Lucas Van Ness. I think Lucas Van Ness actually had he did pretty well in the agility drills. I think the thing with Van Ness is he's gonna have to add something to his skill set. There is a video of him dominating Paris Johnson on a few reps in the Iowa-Ohio State game, just pushing him into the pocket. I mean, he's 6'5", 270. He is they call him Hercules. And if you saw his interviews or watched him test, like, yeah, he looks like Hercules. I think that the most disappointing testing of the 2023 Combine was the entirety of the wide receiver class. I really don't think there is a single receiver worth taking in the top 20 except for Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think there will probably be 3 receivers taken in the top in the first round. So I don't think Green Bay, who's pretty stingy. I mean, they're looking for receivers. That was reported. But after you watch the Combine, like after you watch them all test and run their 40s, like they were slow and they're small. So, I mean, even Quentin Johnson didn't run his 40. He's going to do it at his pro day, but he didn't come in at 6'4", I don't think. And he definitely wasn't 215. I think he was 6'2", 205, 208. So I think Packers, a very safe organization when it comes to drafting, are going to take a pretty high floor player, and I'm going to go with Lucas Van Ness here. I thought about Michael Mayer, but this is a deep tight end class. A lot of the tight ends did very well in their testing, so I went with Van Ness, get some edge help. Pick 16 is Washington, and this is where we're going to take Will Levis. I think that if he fell to 16 and he's still a pretty developmental prospect, he just didn't look good throwing the ball, man. Even when on his throws down the field, like, you wanted to see more touch. You wanted to see better ball placement. It just was like he was trying to throw things on a rope 60 yards, and it just didn't look right. I mean, he has the tools, no doubt, but like I think he's one of the most overrated prospects in the class. I think Richardson's just more of a freaky athlete. Stroud and Young better throwers. Like Levis isn't toolsy enough to outweigh Richardson, and he's not a good enough passer to outweigh Stroud or Young, so I think he's going to fall a little bit. I think with trades, he probably goes still top 10, but maybe Washington trades up for him. That's a team I can see trading up for a quarterback. And Levis will probably be the 4th quarterback taken. And I think there's going to be a few teams that wait on Hendon Hooker. Because I think if Hooker played the full season, he would have gone top. Definitely was in the first round. But pick 17 is the Steelers, and we're going to go with Devin Witherspoon. Devin Witherspoon, still top 2 corner in my opinion. I think he just hurt his stock a little bit by not testing. I don't remember off the top of my head if he didn't test because he was hurt or he just is waiting for his pro day. But the thing, why I'm saying he hurt his stock a little bit is because the corners that tested were all, I mean, it's an insane corner class. There's so much value in this corner class. So I think outside of Gonzalez, there's no rush to take a corner. Witherspoon here at 17 is insane value, though. So with pick 18, we have the Detroit Lions back on the clock, and we're going to go with Brian Brazee. Brian Brazee had an incredible combine. I think a lot of people were worried about the tape, and they're worried about how much time he's missed. But him coming in, running a 4.8, 640, a 1.71 10-yard split, and a 29-inch vertical, I think he looked really good in his measurements, and he looked really good in the on the field testing. So like, I've been a big Brazee guy. If you watch these videos, you know I've been a big Brazee guy, and I think he silenced a lot of doubt that was out there about him. But at pick 19 is the Bucks, and I have no idea what the Bucks are doing with this team. I don't know where they're at as a franchise, what their plan is. So I just went with someone who I thought was just like a cornerstone piece, and that my mind, when I'm thinking of rebuilding a franchise, immediately goes to the offensive line. So I went with Osiris Torrance. I know I've made this pick a lot, but like, just start rebuilding the line until you figure out what you're going to do with the team. Are you going to start over at quarterback? You keep saying you like Trask. Well, you better protect Trask. Just a lot with the Bucks. Not too sure what they're going to do. Pick 20 is the Seahawks, and they got Bryce Young with their 5th overall pick. So with this pick, I went with Kalijah Kancey. Kalijah Kancey tested out basically the same exact way Aaron Donald did when it comes to height, weight. He came in at 281, 281, and then 6'1". He ran a 4.67 40, which is absolutely nuts. And he ran a 1.64 10-yard split, which is also nuts. Kancey's really good at getting skinny in between tackles to get to the quarterback. He does provide a very good amount of pass rush from the interior. And he's just, I think the concern with Kancey is Aaron Donald is freakishly strong. I don't know if Kancey is freakishly strong at this size. Because Aaron Donald probably pound for pound is one of the strongest people in the NFL. I don't think Kancey has that type of strength. But, I mean, speed-wise, he's there. So, I think Kancey's definitely a top 20 player. I think he'll go top 20 in the draft. But anyway, Chargers pick 21, and I made this pick early on, and I'm going back to it, especially with how the receivers did today. We're going with Bijan. I think if you watch Bijan test today, dude, like that, man, he ran a 4.47 40 was his official time, I believe, off the top of my head. But, dude, in the on-the-field stuff, I mean, there's no downshift. Like, Daniel Jeremiah kept saying this, like, he doesn't, if you ever driven a manual car and you're slowing down to make a turn or whatever, you got downshift, or at least go to neutral. Bijan doesn't do that. Everything looks the same speed. The explosiveness is there. The change of direction is there. It's all one speed or greater. It's not. There's no deceleration in his game, which is why I think Bijan is such a touted prospect. It's like he could do everything. He could line up out wide. He could line up the slot. He could do everything, dude. And I think for the Chargers, who just got Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator, and we saw what he did with Tony Pollard and Zeke, I think Eckler will probably fill the Pollard role for this year, and then you have Bijan to do a little bit of both, the Zeke role and the Pollard role. I think that's one of the missing elements of this Chargers offense to fully unlock it. I think it was definitely being held back by coaching, but you throw Bijan into the mix, like, everybody's going to play better. The line is going to play better. The receivers are going to play better. Herbert's going to play better. And it's an offensive league. Their defense has talent. They just got to figure it out. I think Kellen Moore was a fantastic hire, but I think the true problem is still Brandon Staley. And until that's resolved, the defense is going to continue to sputter. Pick 22 is the Ravens, and I went with Quentin Johnston. I think that, they need that receiver that can win on the outside. They need that receiver that can be the true X. Bateman is very talented, in my opinion. I don't know if he's a takeover game type receiver and can attack every level of the field, but Quentin Johnston is that. My concerns with Quentin Johnston, as I watch more of his tape, though, and I'm going to talk about this more in my position breakdowns or position rankings. My fear for Quentin Johnston is becoming Chase Claypool, in that he doesn't play like a 6'4 receiver. When he high points the ball, he's still catching it with his chest. When he goes up for contested catches, he's still trying to catch it with his body. Like, he's not extending his hand. He's not the best hands catcher, is what I'm seeing. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust, but I think that does limit his potential a little bit. Like, you watch DeAndre Hopkins, why he's so good is he can out-jump everybody. He's taller than everybody, and his hands are, he's one of the best hands catchers in the league. And I think until Quentin Johnston does that, becomes a true hands catcher, it's going to inhibit him a little bit on what his full potential is. Pick 23 is the Vikings, and I'm going with the best defensive player available, and it was between two players. I was between Joey Porter and Deontay Banks. Deontay Banks absolutely murdered the combine, but I'm going to go with Joey Porter. I think the thing that tipped the scale for me about Joey Porter is, and why I think you could even have him above Witherspoon, or even your corner one, honestly, he was the best corner in football when it came to guarding Marvin Harrison Jr., and that was a feat that not many players were even able to do or could handle, and Joey Porter was the best at it. And I think, in my opinion, Marvin Harrison Jr. comes into the league as a top 10 receiver immediately. So for Joey Porter to be able to hold his own against him says a lot about how good Joey Porter could be. So that's why I went with Joey Porter over Deontay Banks. Pick 24 is the Jaguars, and with this pick, I went with Michael Mayer. I think... Well, actually, hold on. I forgot you franchise tagged Evan Ingram, or about to franchise tag Evan Ingram. So with this pick, we're gonna change. We're quick audible. We're going with Anton Harrison. Anton Harrison tested out incredibly well, and Cam Robinson did just tear his ACL, and you're probably not going to bring him back on an extension. You're probably going to let him hit free agency. You have Walker Little there, but I think that Anton Harrison can play left tackle immediately day one. And he has the upside to be an elite tackle in the NFL, probably a Pro Bowl level tackle. And with how deep this corner class is, I think you could get another corner later. So I was between Michael Mayer and Anton Harrison. That's why I went with Anton Harrison. I forgot you franchise tagged Evan Ingram, but it's not what I would have done. But I mean, it's not a bad move, so I don't hate it. As in talking about franchise tagging Evan Ingram. But anyways, Giants at pick 25, even with Addison and Zay Flowers on the board, I don't know, man. I just think that the Giants are in desperate need of a wide receiver 1, and I think you could find one for better value in round 2. Like, if we just look at the receivers here, like someone who I think is going to end up being if you're on Instagram, you look at those posts that are like redrafts a year later. I always try to keep that in my head when I do these videos because I'm always wondering who's going to be sneaking into the first round that wasn't there the year before when the draft actually happened. Dude, and someone that keeps popping into my head is Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman absolutely murdered the combine and his measurements, and especially in the explosive testing. His 10-yard split, his 40, and his vertical, all elite traits. He's 6'3", 218. I think he just is going to come in and be a true X for someone. I don't know if it's the Giants, and I think he's probably going to be one of the better second-round picks. I think he's definitely a second-round pick. If you get him in the third, like, I mean... But anyway, Jaden Reed, I think he'll probably be a third or fourth round pick. Probably a third round pick. He looks fantastic. Parker Washington, another one. Rashee Rice, I'm very, very high on Rashee Rice. Really like his game. A lot of people are pooping on him, but I think that if you're talking about NFL catches, if you watch Rashee Rice's tape, I know he plays not the best competition, but dude, he's got some of the most NFL type catches of any of these prospects. All in traffic, all tough catches, high pointing the ball, low drop rate. I think he's going to be really good. I've had him in the first round in some of my mocks, but I think he's going to fall to the second now. But anyway, all that to say, we're going to go with Deonte Banks. The Giants desperately need a man corner, a shutdown man corner for Wink Martindale's scheme, and Deonte Banks is that. He tested out incredibly well. And I think that if you're not going to get the value at receiver in pick 25, just get it later. I thought about interior O-line, but with Torrance being gone, John Michael Schmitz didn't test out too well. But on tape, he's definitely a first-round pick in my opinion. I think Luke Weipler definitely made a case to be a first-round pick. These top centers right here, Weipler, Schmitz, Tippmann didn't test out, but these three are all going to be early second-round picks. These two are going to be potential first-round picks. But anyway, pick 26 is the... who are you? Cowboys. And I got to be honest. Zay Flowers looked a lot better than Jordan Addison at the Combine. And Zay Flowers looks as good as Jordan Addison on tape. Zay Flowers is also faster than Jordan Addison. Zay Flowers is a better separator than Jordan Addison. He's more agile than Jordan Addison. The only downside to Zay Flowers is his height. He's 5'9". And I gotta be honest, the Cowboys are looking for a slot receiver who can also attack downfield. Zay Flowers made sure to mention in his interviews to check out his down the field ability and his ability to play on the outside because it's on tape. I gotta take Zay Flowers over Jordan Addison. If Jordan Addison tested better, Jordan Addison's vertical was poop. Didn't test well. And I'm not too much goes into the combine, but those explosive drills do matter for receivers. And for Flowers to have better explosive rankings at 5'9" than Addison at 5'11", Jordan Addison is so talented, though, which makes this pick tough. Like, it makes it tough because he's more dynamic. Like, he's such a dynamic route runner, such a dynamic receiver. He just, like, I don't know. I feel like if he doesn't win off the line of scrimmage and he has to make a contested catch, it's not. I mean, Zay Flowers isn't the best contested catch either, but that's not what I'm saying. But if you need a slot receiver, I would take Zay Flowers over Addison. And that, like, they have CD, so, like, it's not like you need someone to take over the game. But anyway, pick 27 is the Bills, and I went with Steve Avila, I think, out of TCU. I just think if you need a guard that could just, you draft him and he's ready to start week 1, Steve Avila, out of TCU. He tested out well. He looked good on the field. He looks good on tape. And the Bills need guard help. Excuse me. I also thought about going with Jahmyr Gibbs, but the thing with Gibbs, for the Bills, I don't see this offense ever becoming a check down offense. Ever. And they have James Cook there. So, like, if they want the bruiser back, you could go into round 3 or 4 or 5, and you could take a Zach Charbonnet. And that's not Zach Charbonnet, by the way. A Dwayne McBride, Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson tested out really well. I don't know if Sean Tucker ran. I don't think he did. Kendre Miller is incredibly fast. Chase Brown was incredibly explosive. Oh no, Kendre Miller wasn't there. I'm thinking of Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell was insanely fast. Muhammad Ibrahim looked great. I think he looked so good. He's only 5'7", though, which is why people are knocking him. Cam Peoples didn't look bad. If you want a bruiser back in the late rounds, like, I just think that taking a running back, if it's not Bijan in round 1 for the Bills, like, I think Gibbs makes sense for some teams. I just don't think it makes sense for the Bills. The Bills need someone who could just pound the rock and absorb carries and end games. I don't think Gibbs is that player. So that's why I avoided Gibbs at pick 27. If you're a Bills fan, you want Gibbs, tell me why in the comments. But pick 28 is the Bengals. And admittedly, I had Anton Harrison penciled in here. But we're going to go ahead and take Michael Mayer. I think that if you could add another element to your offense, you get potentially a Rob Gronkowski with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. I don't know how you're going to cover everybody. I think this is such a good add. It's such a good value add for the Bengals. I really want to go tackle here. I just don't think DeJuan Jones is a first-round talent. I don't think Darnell Wright is a first-round talent. Cody Mauch, not a first-round talent, but if you took him in the second, you are getting a value player. He tested out incredibly well everywhere. It tested very, very well. I think he moved himself into the second round from the third, but that's just my opinion. Saints at pick 29, we're taking Addison. Chris Olave and Jordan Addison would be a very, very good receiving core. A little bit small, but there's a lot of, like, the Saints need everybody, and I think if you're taking best player available of who's left on the board, you're just taking Addison here. For sure. I mean, you could go with the corner. Like, Emmanuel Forbes would actually be a really good pick for the Saints there. And also for the Bengals, they could take Forbes. I think Forbes is a first-round talent. I just couldn't find where to put him this draft. Eagles at pick 30. I took someone who really impressed me, even though he didn't do that much testing. But that was, where's he at? Keion White. I thought Keion White looked really, really good. He's been getting first-round buzz. I think he just looked smooth. He looked strong and smooth. I think he had 30 bench press reps. Looked really, really good. I think he's probably a second-rounder, but if the Eagles wanted to reach on him at pick 30, I think you're getting a very good player. I also thought about taking Will McDonald. I'm not even going to attempt to announce this dude's name, but AA right here from Northwestern. He was probably the biggest winner out of the edge group. He probably moved himself from back into round 3 into round 2, for sure. I also thought about B.J. Ojulari, one of my favorite players in the draft that nobody's really talking about. Let's see. I also thought about Mozzie Smith and Siaki Ika, but I decided to go with Keion White because he looked really well at the combine, and I wanted to get a new name in here, and also be realistic. But at pick 31, the Chiefs, I went with B.J. Ojulari. I thought it's just one of the best players off on the board. He's a leader at LSU, just a great locker room guy, fits the Chiefs culture. Great compliment to Karlaftis, as he could be that speed rusher with Karlaftis being that power rusher. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. That's going to do it for this mock draft. Stay tuned to the channel. Turn notifications on. Like, comment, subscribe. We got more content coming with positional rankings. We're also going to do some more opinionated videos, some league coverage type stuff. So make sure you got notifications turned on. But until then, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.